Welcome to Talk About Topeka Live, coming to you from the Topeka Performing Arts Center in downtown Topeka. We have Food, Flair, and Fun being brought to you by the Topeka Performing Arts Center today.
Yeah.
And we're speaking with Greg Fox from the RowHouse restaurant. I'm your host, Chris Schultz, and this is my favorite segment of the show because we get to talk about food.
Okay.
And this is excellent that you guys have been doing such great work with the RowHouse. I mean, let's talk a little bit about how long did you open this thing and the idea for it?
Sure. Yeah. RowHouse opened in, I started in 2006. And so we're 12 years old now. And the idea was to be an ever-evolving, ever-changing concept that continued to hold food in a higher regard and to just change. Because I think that all human beings, we change continuously. There's no stopping it. So I wanted a restaurant that just kept changing.
Yeah.
And that's what we're continuing to do 12 years in.
Well, and if you go back 12 years ago and you look at the culinary scene in Topeka, it wasn't quite as jumping, you know, and it took, from my opinion, someone like yourself who had brought your experience here to do this, to make people explore different things in their palates and to be able to look at this different. And I think Topeka's palate in general in that time, because of people like yourself making those decisions, I think that it has expanded widely.
You know, I'm a huge fan of Topeka. I've always been a fan. I'm a born and bred Topekan, and I a little bit agree with you in that I think this town has always been awesome. Yeah. And I think what you guys do at Field of Greens, what has been happening in Topeka since its inception in the 1800s, has been exceptional. And I kind of feel like I just kind of landed in the rhythm of what was originally the concept of Topeka, which was to be open, to be new, to be encompassing of all people, and to be evolving, and to regard itself as a place that is outstanding, not just ordinary. So,
and there was a point, and a lot of cities went through this, where it was the whitewashing, if you will, like the corporates that came in and opened up all these other places, and a lot of those mom and pops that existed for so many years were then put out because the trend at the time was to go to those, and you know, it took starters to do that. And now look at this, what we're doing now. So many places are being opened up that you can't get anywhere else other than Topeka, you know, in the culinary scene.
And things that we have been doing.
Exactly. And,
it's not new.
And we're expanding on it. It's coming back. It's full, the pendulum is swinging back, if you will. But that's pretty cool. You get to watch that, and you have for 12 years now, watch people's palate expand because you've been able to control that wheel. What's that been like?
Well, I haven't been able to control any wheel, but
I think so. You pay the bills.
I've been paying the bills.
That's paying the bills.
I have watched. I really ended up in a very strange point in Topeka's history. Like, I moved away in 1988, and I came back in 2000, and I visited often throughout that entire time period. But when I left Topeka, Topeka's downtown was thriving. I mean, we had Macy's downtown and Ray Beers, and so I missed that moment when the self-esteem of Topeka kind of took a plunge, and corporate changed us and moved us out to Wanamaker. Like, I wasn't living here then. So when I came back, it was all this like, what the hell's going on? I've never felt that we missed a step because I didn't actually participate in that 20-year window.
The step where we tripped a minute.
When everybody got upset.
Yeah.
When everybody felt bad about what was going on. And I think it's kind of ridiculous. And so I've never bought into it. And I think people like you and your family haven't bought into it either. We're just like, well, you've got to experience where you live by living in it, not by sitting on the sidelines and shaking your finger at it.
Absolutely.
And that happens in every single city throughout the country, is that you have to participate in your life, not just watch it on the sidelines, you know.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the inspiration for the cuisine. I mean, you guys grow things, you source things as local as possible.
Sure.
You know, and putting it all together, it takes a lot of creativity. How's that process work?
I'm part of a team, so I hire a lot of young people who most of them have grown up around Topeka, and always have. So over the 12 years, I've had a lot of Topeka youth work their way through my little box, which is on Wednesdays, I say, come in, and we're going to start again. Erase everything you know, and we start again. So the main concept behind our menus are always to be delicious, and to be seasonal, and to be nutritious. And so I don't know, I always think of myself more of a teacher than anything else, but trying to teach people how to work their way out of a box and imagine their dinner or other people's dinner from their point of view. So we're trying not to cook for ourselves, we're trying to cook for our guests.
And that shows. And I can't tell you how many people that I've spoken to that said, you know, I am an incredibly picky eater, and I don't like X, Y, or Z. But whenever I go to the RowHouse, if that's in it, I just want to try it the way they make it. And they're willing to step out, and something that they may have not liked since they were a kid for some reason, they'll still try it there, and they'll like it. And that's something that I think is a true testament that people do trust what you're doing, because they know everything that they're doing is good stuff. It's a great time to spend there. It's a very unique place, and the building's very beautiful, and the experience is very beautiful, and you celebrate a lot of things with a lot of people. What's that like?
Well, the building itself is one of the original Topeka structures. So our building was built in 1876, and it's an amazing thing to be inside of a structure that has housed so much history of the town.
Yeah.
So we're not only a place to dine out and have a great time, but I feel like people come in and they get to be immersed in the history of Topeka, which was a little fancy and a little unusual and a little ahead of its time, which is really our roots of the town, as opposed to a lot of people's viewpoint of the town, which is the opposite of that.
Yep.
So I've always felt that we've been ahead of the curve, not behind the curve. And I think that the way that we cook at RowHouse is ahead of the curve. I think the food that we're offering is not only ahead of the trends, but we're just staying in touch. Like having an ever-evolving youth sort of coming through our stream. Like I start cooks at 18, 19, 20, and they'll work there for 2 years and then they'll move on. But they're infusing the restaurant with a new personality. Like I might be the owner, but I'm not the only cook. So I like to remind people continuously, like it's my biggest thing is I've always been telling people, I'm not the one cooking. I'm the one that keeps the doors open and I write the checks and I make sure everybody gets paid. But you're tasting what the next generation is doing, and we keep changing that. So I think that my restaurant stays fresh and new and eager and courageous.
And that gets back to that point where you were being very humble at the beginning, saying that you are changing that society. Over 12 years of doing that and mentoring young folks to come in and have a different perspective of food, they go out to other places and they bring that with them, and that has expanded. So I'm going to say, give this guy a hand for helping us expand the Topeka palate. And I'm going to say to everybody out there that they need to go out and check out the RowHouse. It's a great place to, if you have a special event that's coming up, anniversaries, birthdays, all that stuff.
Or not.
Or anything. But
just keep coming.
Wire it in there and go back all the time.
And lunch. Come for lunch.
And you got lunch? What else you got?
Well, lunch is new, and so I brought back a girl, Anna Springer, who was from Topeka, and Anna had left for several years, and we got thrown together in a weird mix to go cook at the Sundance Film Festival. So Anna's actually taken over as the head chef of RowHouse when we opened lunch.
Awesome.
And so our lunch is an unsurpassed sort of unique in the whole world sort of lunch that not only feeds you, but it feeds like your soul. Like we're making food that it's transcendent of what's going on in the culinary scene.
Turning food into an experience.
Yeah, and lunch is a whole different side of RowHouse, and I'm especially proud of what's going on there. So
excellent.
I think people forget that it's been a hard message for us to get out that we've got this casualer side of RowHouse to also experience.
Excellent. Well, get out and experience it, folks.
Yeah.
That's the RowHouse restaurant, and you should find them on Facebook. Check out each week it's a different menu as well, so you have different things going on there. So always something changing, ever evolving. Check out the RowHouse. Greg Fox, thank you so much for
You're welcome, buddy.
joining us on the show and for doing all you do for the culinary scene here in Topeka. I really do appreciate it. And an incredible musician as well, if I might add. So I'm going to brag on you. That's what this show's all about. So check it all out, folks. This segment was brought to you by the Topeka Performing Arts Center. TPAC, it brings locals together to make great events and lifetime experiences. And we'll see you all back here on the next Talk About Topeka live real soon. Come and see us here at the Topeka Performing Arts Center for a show. And we'll celebrate all the people, places, events, and ideas that make our community a great place to live.